The National Desk, America's News, now.
Francine in full swing. The sixth named storm of the season has formed when it's expected to turn into a Cat 1 hurricane, and the state's now on watch for heavy rain and damaging winds.
Who of these two candidates is saying something that will address the issues and the problems that I and my family are confronting?
The first and possibly only debate just one day away, how each candidate is getting ready for what could be a make or break performance. And a new FDA rule changing how mammogram results are reported to women, coming up the unique trait that will now get more focus in an effort to reduce delayed cancer diagnoses. This is the National Desk, America's News Now. I'm Amira David. A hurricane watch in effect right now in Louisiana. This is Tropical Storm Francine, officially developed today, becoming the sixth named storm in the Atlantic this season. It is headed right now towards that Louisiana-Texas coastline, predicted to make landfall in Louisiana sometime on Wednesday. The National Weather Service predicting that Francine will be a hurricane by the time it hits, and the storm will bring 4 to 12 inches of rain from Brownsville, Texas, along the coast all the way to the Florida Panhandle south of Tallahassee into Thursday morning. Francine will then move north, bringing heavy rain and high winds up the Mississippi River Valley as it heads towards the Great Lakes by the weekend. While this hurricane season has been slower than expected so far, another storm may soon form. The National Hurricane Center is watching 2 potential tropical storms in the Atlantic right now. Disturbance 1 is given at least a 60% chance of developing into a named storm in the next 7 days, while Disturbance 2 has more than a 70% chance of becoming a tropical storm. And right now, wildfires are burning over 2 million acres in the West. The line fire in San Bernardino County, California, that started on Thursday, is covering over 21,000 acres, and it's only 3% contained. Firefighters are struggling to control it because of above average temperatures and dry conditions. Thousands of people have evacuated. South of Reno, Nevada, over 10,000 people may have to evacuate because of the Davis fire that's now down to 4,700 acres, but still 0% contained. It's destroyed at least 14 buildings. One woman in the city of Sparks describes how she felt when firefighters got to her neighborhood.
It was the biggest relief that when they showed up, because you have that sense of safety. And that you feel like, okay, they're here, they're going to take care of us, everything's going to be okay. Not so much like me, but my community.
The Davis fire even caused Democratic vice presidential candidate Tim Walz to postpone a rally he had planned today in Nevada. A manhunt in London, Kentucky continues as a suspected shooter has evaded police now for 3 days. Authorities have identified 32-year-old Joseph Couch as the main suspect in a shooting on Saturday. According to investigators, Couch shot 12 vehicles and has hurt 5 people on Interstate 75, leaving some in critical condition. The local sheriff's office says Couch served in the National Guard for at least 4 years and is considered armed and dangerous.
You know, everybody's scared. This is a very dangerous situation. This gentleman is obviously dangerous, according to even what law enforcement has stated. And, you know, they're scared, but they're also frustrated. They're angry that someone decided to choose violence versus, you know, getting help for their mental health.
Across at least 4 states, multiple juveniles have been arrested for making online threats against their local school systems. A 15-year-old girl was arrested in Monroe County, Michigan on Saturday. A small caliber bolt-action rifle was found in her home. Her school was closed today as the investigation continues there. Also in Broward County, Florida, a 14-year-old girl was arrested for threats made on Saturday. She admitted to the threat but told authorities it was just a joke. She now remains teens in custody. In Camden and Gloucester counties in New Jersey, 2 school districts closed today after at least 3 teens were taken into custody for threats that were made just last night. And outside of Pittsburgh, the Woodland Hills School District held all classes virtually because of an online threat made this morning. A lot will be on the line tomorrow night as Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump take the debate stage. The National Desk's Matt Gelka takes a look at the state of the race ahead of the primetime showdown.
In the marquee debate matchup ahead of the November election, it's Donald Trump versus Kamala Harris. It could be the only time the vice president and former president face off with no more currently scheduled.
Thank you very much, Wisconsin.
Trump was on the trail in Wisconsin ahead of Tuesday night.
Their lying, cheating, thieving, hoaxing, and plotting will come to an end.
With Harris taking a break from debate prep in Pittsburgh.
Are you ready, Madam Vice President?
Ready.
Harris will likely have to defend flip-flops from past stances. Axios identified 9 areas where she's reportedly changed, including originally opposing a border wall, no longer opposing a fracking ban, and backing off Medicare for all. Her campaign website added an issues page ahead of the debate after critics claimed she wasn't clear on her stances. It took 7 weeks since President Joe Biden dropped his re-election bid before the Harris team put the page up on the campaign website. Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders was asked over the weekend if Harris abandoned progressive positions.
No, I don't think she's abandoning her ideals. I think she's trying to be pragmatic and doing what she thinks is right in order to win the election.
National polling averages have the race at a dead heat between the 2 candidates. A New York Times Siena poll released on the eve of the debate has Trump up 1 over Harris, well within the margin of error and the closest it's ever been between 2 candidates with just 8 weeks to go before an election. The debate could be the last chance to shift the electorate.
You're going to see the same Donald Trump that you saw a couple of months ago in Georgia with Joe Biden. He's going to be calm, cool, and collected. He's going to set up the contrast between the disastrous administration of Kamala Harris and Joe Biden.
Kamala Harris is going to demonstrate why she's going to be the next president. I think she's going to have an excellent command of the issues. She's going to be able to draw contrasts with Donald Trump.
And when the dust settles on Tuesday night, it will have been the 7th time that Donald Trump has appeared on the big stage for a general election debate, the most ever in history. Reporting in Washington, I'm Matt Gelka.
Matt, thank you. Jury selection now underway in the federal trial of 3 former Memphis police officers charged in the 2023 death of Tyree Nichols. Body cam video shows the 29-year-old being attacked by the officers after being pulled over. He died in the hospital 3 days later. Tadarius Bean, Demetrius Haley, and Justin Smith have pleaded not guilty to violating Nichols' civil rights. The trial could last up to 4 weeks. And the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students will have his trial moved to a different city. The judge says he's concerned about Brian Koberger's ability to receive a fair trial in Latah County, where the stabbings took place in 2022. He also cited logistical concerns. The judge did not specify the new location, but Koberger's attorneys want it to be in Boise. The trial is set for next summer. Tonight, over a dozen clients of an alleged brothel are fighting before the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court to keep their identities concealed. The men include elected officials, doctors, military officers, and various other high-profile individuals who are set to have their names revealed after a judge ruled last week to open the case to the public. In November, the Department of Justice announced 3 people had been arrested for operating the brothel network out of apartment complexes in various cities in the Boston area, along with in a suburb of Washington, D.C. in Virginia. Wall Street starting the week on a positive note, despite last week's sell-off and weaker than expected jobs report, renewing concerns about the potential for a recession. The National Desk's Atrel Nashar breaks down the latest data and what it means for a likely interest rate cut next week.
That soft landing economists have been hoping for may come down to what happens in the next couple of months. A scenario in which the U.S. economy makes it through this years-long period of high inflation without tipping into a recession is still likely, most economists believe. But new jobs data has some revising their outlook.
As that hiring rate comes down, it's telling us that firms are becoming less and less excited about growing their labor force. And the next move that you typically see in a cycle is that move towards layoffs.
Citi's chief U.S. economist Andrew Hollenhorst, who's known to have relatively pessimistic views of the economy, says he's certain the U.S. is headed toward at least a substantial slowdown. Other top economists at leading firms see the slowdown in hiring as part of an inevitable softening of what was a red-hot jobs market. Goldman Sachs still believes there's just a 20% chance of a recession in the next 12 months. And at Morgan Stanley,
we're pretty confident. We feel good. We think the economy is fine. We don't think we're headed for a hard landing.
Federal Reserve officials poring over every piece of incoming data ahead of their vote next week, expected to result in the first interest rate cut since March of 2020. The size of the cut will send a message about how the central bank sees the strength of the U.S. economy. That is a top concern for voters. But Fed Chair Jerome Powell insists the upcoming election won't impact their decision.
Do you believe it's possible to really remain apolitical with a September rate cut?
I absolutely do. Anything that we do before, during, or after the election will be based on the data, the outlook, and the balance of risks, and not on anything else.
So investors and economists are debating whether we'll see a quarter-point rate cut or a half-point rate cut next week. And two major reports coming out this week could help tip the scale. We've got consumer inflation out on Wednesday and producer inflation or wholesale inflation on Thursday.
And Atra, we're also about to get a fresh read on how small business owners feel about the economy. That will also play a role. So, I mean, tell me a little bit more about that. How is that expected to play into the broader outlook?
Certainly, yeah. So we get this monthly reading from the National Federation of Independent Business, and it measures optimism levels of small business owners, right? Because recessions or dodging a recession, a lot of it has to do with how people feel. And it tells us, this index that we'll get tomorrow tells us what these business owners see for their future, including whether they plan to ramp up or slow down hiring, which, as you just saw, is certainly driving concerns about the direction of the overall economy.
Well, we know you'll be following the data for us as it comes out. Atral Nashar live in D.C. for us. Thank you. Tearful fans, teammates, close friends, and family came together today to lay NHL great Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew to rest. During the eulogy, John's wife Meredith announced that she's pregnant with the couple's third baby. Johnny, who had been playing for the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Matthew, a former college hockey player, died while on their bicycles, hit by a suspected drunk driver. The driver faces a hearing this Friday. And the voice of a generation has passed away. James Earl Jones has died, known as Darth Vader in Star Wars and Mufasa from The Lion King, as an actor in The Field of Dreams, as well as from Fences on Broadway, just to name a few of his many known roles. He was considered one of the greatest actors of his generation, both on screen and on stage. No cause of death has been released. James Earl Jones, 93 years old, and he will be missed. Coming up, an NFL player was detained over the weekend but says he has no idea why, how the local police department is responding. Then, the growing safety risks of SUVs and pickup trucks and the solution proposed by the government. And later, the controversy brewing in California about police relocating homeless people to other cities. We'll be right back. Tonight, the Miami-Dade Police Union says Dolphins' Tyreek Hill was, quote, uncooperative when detained by police on Sunday morning, just hours before the team's home opener. According to a statement released by the South Florida Union, Hill was driving in a way that put himself and others in, quote, great risk of danger. They asked him to sit on the ground, and he wouldn't. That's what the statement said. But the investigation into one of the officers involved continues. That officer tonight on administrative leave. On Sunday, this video of Hill's detainment went viral, showing Hill handcuffed, eventually taken down to the pavement face first. Hill's NFL agent calling the move excessive.
Tyreek did absolutely nothing to deserve this. They gave him a ticket for a moving violation going into the stadium. It's just shocking. There's no question there will be ramifications that come out of this.
Well, on Sunday, Hill said he was respectful to police and said he was not unruly or uncooperative in any way. Congressional members of both the House and Senate are back on Capitol Hill today. Now, without an agreement on spending, the government will shut down in just 3 weeks. National correspondent Kayla Gaskins has the latest on the brewing funding fight.
Feelings of deja vu in Washington this week. Lawmakers back in town after a long summer recess. Their return comes with yet another threat of a government shutdown.
I mean, this is so ridiculous.
I don't think there's going to be a shutdown. We'll see.
The to-do list is long and time is short. Just 13 legislative days to agree on and pass a spending plan. On Friday, the House GOP unveiling a 46-page stopgap plan that would fund the government through March of 2025. But attached to the bill is the SAVE Act, a law requiring stricter proof of citizenship requirements for voting.
It essentially is a national voter ID. And I would think both parties and everybody would be interested in protecting the integrity of the ballot and making sure that people only legally qualified to vote do so. But it's become a partisan issue, which is amazing to me.
Democrats quick to knock the plan.
Republicans basically just want to play political games and tie the future of our economy and real people's jobs to these horrific plans that really get us and do nothing for the actual country or for actual voting security.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer responding with a statement saying avoiding a government shutdown requires bipartisanship, not a bill drawn up by one party. Schumer goes on to warn Speaker Mike Johnson is making the same mistakes as his predecessor, Kevin McCarthy, wasting precious time by catering to the hard MAGA right. The current funding for the federal government expires September 30th. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins reporting for the National Desk, America's News Now.
Protecting pedestrians from large SUVs and pickup trucks is now top of mind for the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, or NHTSA. The agency is proposing new testing and performance requirements to minimize the risk of pedestrian head injuries. SUVs and trucks have grown over the years, creating a larger blind spot to pedestrians. NHTSA says the rule could save 67 lives every single year. The CDC, meantime, and the FDA are now investigating a salmonella outbreak in at least 9 states linked to tainted eggs. The eggs are labeled with Milo's Poultry Farm or Tony's Fresh Market. The eggs, sold in 3 states, are connected to at least 24 hospitalizations and 65 illnesses. The CDC warns more reports of illnesses could be coming. Beginning tomorrow, the FDA is mandating that mammography reports and results letters sent to patients must include an assessment of breast density. Those with dense tissue are more likely to develop cancer in their lifetime, and roughly half of all women 40 years and older have dense breast tissue, making it harder to diagnose possible cancers on a mammogram. A newer trend in heart surgery may have additional health benefits. Medical reporter Liz Bonis explaining how it works and why one man says it saved his life.
But when Jim Parker came into a rural Indiana hospital with a life-threatening diagnosis,
they came in the room and told me I had an aortic dissection and I needed emergency surgery immediately.
he was grateful that the heart and vascular team at Ohio's Christ Hospital, which provided this video, was able to perform this kind of surgery. For Jim, it was preferred because
I'm one of Jehovah's Witnesses, and this needed to be a bloodless surgery.
Dr. Saad Hassan told me he was able to perform this critical procedure for Jim's immediate need.
Acute aortic dissection is it's a life-threatening problem that results from a tear in the wall of the aorta, which is the blood vessel that exits the heart and supplies blood to the entire body.
And he was able to perform it without the need for additional blood transfusions. He can do this, he says, because his team was already working toward this goal whenever possible for patients.
A lot of research in cardiac surgery recently that has shown worse outcomes when you use blood products in the process of the operation. So, we at Christ Hospital, our surgical team, we've been refining our techniques to use fewer and fewer blood products in the conduct of any of our open heart operations.
For Jim, the surgery was a success. He's now saying a big thank you to the doctor and the team that saved his life. Mostly, however, he says he is thankful for the way they were able to save it.
All the indications was that no one was going to do this surgery bloodless. No one. This is a really huge deal for Jehovah's Witnesses and for people that won't take blood for perhaps other reasons.
And that was Liz Vonis reporting. Coming up, the changes coming next year that will help lower drug prices for tens of millions of people. We'll be right back. We have reporters all across the country in your neighborhoods covering the issues that matter most to you. We're taking the pulse of America, and we begin with a closer look at the impact of a drug price cap going into effect next year.
With so many expenses on the rise, millions of Americans will soon see a massive cut to a critical cost.
Previously, people in Medicare prescription drug plans did not have a limit on how much they had to spend out of pocket every year.
Starting in 2025, Medicare Part D enrollees, about 56 million Americans, will benefit from a $2,000 cap on their out-of-pocket expenses for prescription drugs.
We're hearing about people who are spending upwards of $10,000 just on their prescription drugs.
According to AARP, 3 million people will benefit in 2025. That will increase to 4 million by 2029.
Officials in Santa Cruz, California are calling out police in the city of Hanford for relocating a homeless woman to Santa Cruz without notice. They say 2 Hanford officers drove 3 hours to Santa Cruz to drop off the woman who wanted to move there. Officials are now planning to introduce a new ordinance that could require advance notice for that kind of move. Santa Cruz's mayor explains his frustration.
The city of Hanford wants to move a homeless person to Santa Cruz. They call us, we work that out. We do that all the time with cities. We do that from here to other cities. Other cities do that from their city to us, but it's all by prior arrangement.
The terms of service for some of the most popular platforms can be summed up in 2 words: lengthy and detailed. It could take quite a while to read, time that you probably don't have. And even if you found the time, tech expert Craig Agernoff says the fine print is complicated to understand.
The average person, the layman, would not understand. I bet you most lawyers wouldn't even understand what's inside those contracts.
Former president of the Florida Bar, Gary Lester, explains you could be signing away your legal rights by blindly signing these agreements. Now, in the case of Meta, the company behind Facebook and Instagram, at the end of this lengthy clause, it says there are some exceptions and ways to opt out of arbitration. And experts say if that's an option, always choose it to keep your right to go to court.
Well, coming up, a health update about Princess Kate following her cancer diagnosis earlier this year. We'll tell you about it on the other side. A heartwarming announcement from Catherine, the Princess of Wales. She has announced she's completed cancer chemotherapy treatment and is right now cancer-free. In a new statement today, the princess said she is entering a new phase of recovery and released this heartwarming video message in which she addresses Britons, reminding them not to take the simple things like family for granted, adding that she will gradually return to public life in the months ahead. The princess revealed that she'd been diagnosed with cancer in March after it was discovered during an abdominal surgery. Her announced diagnosis came just a month after King Charles revealed his own cancer diagnosis. And that does it for this edition of the National Desk. We do invite you to join us again this evening for more coverage of America's top stories. I'm Amira David, and thank you so much for watching.